Do you take a daily multivitamin, vitamin D supplements, imported Norwegian omega-3 capsules? A 13th century English peasant never took any of these. He never entered a pharmacy. He never consulted a nutritionist. He never counted calories, and yet his bones were denser than yours. His teeth lasted decades without fluoride, and he rarely suffered from the chronic diseases that fill modern consulting rooms. How is it possible that people without nutritional science, without laboratories, without access to industrial supplements, were structurally healthier? The answer lies not in what they possessed, but in what we have lost. And what we have lost is the very foundation of everything. Real food, grown in living soil, consumed whole, untouched by chemical manipulation. Today we shall examine why the medieval diet was nutritionally superior to the modern Western diet. We are speaking of medieval Europe, between the 10th and 15th centuries, not the banquets of royalty, nor the tables of the nobility, but the rural villages scattered across England, Scandinavia, Germany and France, places where winters were long, summers short, and survival depended entirely upon what the land produced locally. There were no supermarkets, no imported tropical foodstuffs, no refrigerators to preserve food for months. Each community lived according to the natural cycle of the seasons, seasonal cultivation, the raising of free-ranging animals, and fishing in nearby rivers and seas. Diet was dictated by geography, by climate, by immediate necessity, and precisely because of this, it was complete. Everything that reached the plate came directly from the earth, without intermediaries, without industrial processing, without nutritional loss. Food was eaten raw, fermented, slowly cooked, or preserved with salt and smoke. Today we tend to believe that medieval food was poor, monotonous, and inadequate. We imagine peasants subsisting on nothing but hard bread and tasteless porridge, constantly malnourished. Hollywood has sold us this image: dirty, hungry, diseased people living wretched lives until they died at 30. But this is a historical distortion born of modern prejudice against the past. The documentary evidence tells a very different story. Studies of medieval skeletons reveal dense bones, strong teeth, and robust physical structure. Isotopic analyses of skeletal remains show diets rich in protein, animal fats, varied vegetables, and whole grains. Monastic records and rural estate inventories list dozens of foods consumed regularly. We are not speaking of luxurious abundance, but of sound structural nutritional sufficiency. They ate less in quantity, but infinitely more in quality. A 14th century English peasant consumed a greater variety of vegetables than the average European does today. Turnips, parsnips, beetroot, onions, leeks, cabbage, kale, peas, broad beans, lentils. Wild herbs gathered straight from the fields, young nettles, dandelion, sorrel, watercress. Whole grains, never refined, rye, oats, barley, spelt, buckwheat. Everything retained its husk, fiber, germ, and micronutrients intact. Nothing was peeled, bleached, or polished. And protein: meat from wild game, rabbit, deer, wild boar. Fresh fish from rivers and coasts, herring, cod, salmon, trout. Eggs from free-ranging hens that foraged on insects and herbs. Fermented dairy, hard-aged cheeses, cultured butter, sour curds, whey. Nothing processed, nothing packaged, nothing with a 2-year shelf life. Everything alive, dense, complete. Let us begin with cereals, the foundation of the medieval diet. Each village grew rye, oats, barley, or spelt according to local climate. Grain was harvested by hand, threshed in the barn, and ground in stone mills powered by water or wind. The milling process was slow and at low temperature, preserving all nutrients. White refined flour did not exist. Bread was dark, dense, made from whole grain. This bread contained soluble and insoluble fibers that nourished beneficial gut bacteria. It contained B vitamins, magnesium, zinc, iron, selenium. It contained antioxidant phytochemicals present in the grain husk. Most importantly, it had a low glycemic index. It did not cause insulin spikes. It released energy slowly throughout the day, sustaining intense physical labor without energy crashes. It was structural fuel, not disguised sugar. Compare this with modern industrial bread. Refined flour bleached with chlorine, stripped of fiber, vitamins and minerals, then enriched with added sugar, hydrogenated vegetable fat, chemical preservatives and synthetic dough conditioners. The result is a product that sends blood glucose soaring, inflames the gut, and delivers empty calories devoid of nutritional density. It is technically food, but functionally empty. A medieval peasant eating whole-grain rye bread was nutritionally light years ahead of anyone eating sliced industrial white bread today. Medieval people had no supermarkets, so they relied on household gardens and wild foraging. Every family cultivated small plots behind the house: onions, leeks, cabbage, turnips, parsnips. These vegetables grew in rich soil, not depleted by industrial monoculture, not bombarded with pesticides. The plants absorbed minerals from the soil: calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, and those minerals went straight to the plate. Beyond the garden lay wild gathering. Women and children went out into fields and woods to collect edible herbs: young nettles, rich in iron and protein; dandelion, excellent for liver and digestion; sorrel, a source of vitamin C; watercress, a natural anti-inflammatory. These plants were eaten fresh, cooked in soups, or dried for winter. They were not exotic imported superfoods. They were simply local food, freely available, nutritionally superior to any supplement. Modern vegetables, by contrast, are harvested unripe, transported thousands of kilometers, stored for weeks in cold chambers, and reach the consumer nutritionally depleted. Studies show that a modern tomato may contain up to 60% less vitamin C than one from 1950. Carrots contain less beta-carotene. Spinach contains less iron. Industrial agriculture has prioritized size, appearance, and shelf life over nutritional density. Medieval people ate vegetables picked in the morning and cooked in the afternoon. Absolute freshness, nutrients intact. Meat in the Middle Ages did not come from industrial confinement systems. Animals lived free-ranging. Hens scratched freely, eating insects, worms, seeds, and herbs. Their eggs had deep orange yolks rich in omega-3, vitamin A, and choline. Pigs were raised semi-wild, fed kitchen scraps, acorns, roots. Their meat was firm, flavorsome, with a balanced fat profile. Cattle grazed open pastures on fresh grass. Their meat contained more omega-3, more CLA, more fat-soluble vitamins. Compare this with modern industrial meat: hens confined in cages, fed genetically modified maize and soya meal; eggs with pale yolks poor in nutrients; pigs in overcrowded pens, routinely given preventive antibiotics, fattened artificially; cattle in feedlots, fed grains that damage their digestive systems, given growth hormones kept under constant stress. The result is inflamed meat, unbalanced fat, chemical residues, protein, yes, but compromised protein. Medieval people also ate offal regularly: ox liver, lamb kidney, pig heart, tongue, sweetbreads. These organs are the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal: vitamin A, B vitamins, hem iron, zinc, copper, CoQ10. Today, nutritionists recommend supplements for these nutrients. In the Middle Ages, they came naturally from food. No one discarded offal. Everything was used. Bones became broth rich in collagen, glycine, and minerals. Fat became lard for cooking. Nothing was wasted. Everything served a nutritional purpose. Without refrigeration, medieval people preserved food through fermentation. Cabbage became sauerkraut. Milk became cheese, curds, kefir. Fish was fermented in brine. Bread was naturally leavened with wild sourdough. Beer was fermented from malted barley and hops. These processes did not merely preserve food, they multiplied its nutritional value. Fermentation produces probiotics, digestive enzymes, B vitamins, and vitamin K2. It transforms food into intestinal medicine. Sauerkraut, for example, contains billions of lactobacilli per gram. These bacteria colonize the gut, strengthen immunity, produce neurotransmitters, and reduce inflammation. Aged cheeses contain vitamin K2, essential for bone and cardiovascular health. Naturally leavened sourdough bread has gluten partially broken down by bacteria, making it more tolerable than industrial bread made with fast-acting chemical yeast. Unpasteurized medieval beer contained B vitamins and probiotic yeasts. It was, quite literally, liquid bread. Today we purchase probiotics in capsules. We spend fortunes on digestive enzyme supplements. In the Middle Ages, these came naturally from the diet. Every meal included something fermented: sourdough bread, aged cheese, preserved vegetables, fresh beer. The medieval gut was a robust microbial ecosystem. This meant strong immunity, efficient digestion, stable mental health. We now know that intestinal health determines overall health, and medieval intestines were infinitely healthier than ours. Medieval people cooked with pork lard, beef tallow, cow butter. These fats are rich in fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. They are stable at high temperatures, do not oxidize, do not produce toxic compounds. They provide dense energy for heavy physical work, and they contain essential fatty acids the body cannot produce itself. Animal fat was not a villain, it was vital fuel, especially in cold climates where dense calories meant survival. For decades, modern nutritionists demonized animal fats and replaced them with refined vegetable oils: rapeseed, soya, sunflower, maize. These oils are extracted with chemical solvents, refined at high temperatures, deodorized with further chemicals. They are high in omega-6, which promotes chronic inflammation when consumed in excess. They oxidize easily when heated, producing toxic aldehydes, and they are devoid of fat-soluble vitamins. They are technically fat, but functionally harmful. A medieval peasant frying potatoes in pork lard was consuming clean, stable, nutritious fat. Someone today frying potatoes in rapeseed oil is consuming oxidized, inflammatory fat lacking nutrients. Which is healthier? Modern science is beginning to recognize that traditional animal fats do not cause heart disease. What does cause it is sugar, refined carbohydrates, and industrial vegetable oils, precisely the things medieval people did not consume. Sugar was extremely rare in medieval Europe. Honey was the only source of sweetness, used occasionally at festivals or to sweeten mead. There was no refined sugar, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial sweeteners. The medieval diet was naturally low in simple sugars. Sweetness came from seasonal fruit: apples in autumn, blackberries in summer, ripe pears. But fruit was eaten fresh, not processed into juices or sugared preserves. This meant medieval people did not suffer from insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, metabolic obesity, or chronic dental caries. Their bodies burned fat as primary fuel, not glucose. They maintained an efficient metabolic state without the energy roller coaster caused by sugar spikes and crashes. They worked physically for hours without collapse. They slept deeply at night. They woke with natural energy, because their bodies were not constantly fighting excess glucose. Today, sugar is everywhere: in bread, tomato sauce, yogurt, breakfast cereals, processed meats, ready-made seasonings. The modern European consumes more sugar in 1 week than a medieval person consumed in an entire year. And we pay the price: epidemic obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, dementia. Studies show a direct correlation between sugar consumption and chronic inflammation. Medieval people avoided this simply because sugar did not exist. Their good fortune, our misfortune. Medieval people ate according to the seasons: spring, young herbs, fresh eggs, lamb; summer, green vegetables, red berries, fresh fish; autumn, roots, nuts, game, apples; winter, preserved meat, aged cheese, stored grains, fermented vegetables. This natural rotation ensured nutritional variety throughout the year. Different seasons brought different nutrients. The body adapted cyclically. There was no monotony disguised as modern convenience. Seasonality also meant maximum freshness. Vegetables were harvested at peak ripeness, when nutrients were most concentrated. They were not picked green to survive weeks in transit. Fruit ripened naturally on the tree, developing complex sugars and phytochemicals. It was not treated with ethylene for artificial ripening. Every food reached the plate at the height of its nutritional value, simple yet profoundly effective. Today we eat strawberries in winter, imported from the opposite hemisphere. We eat tomatoes all year round, grown in greenhouses without adequate sunlight. We eat farmed salmon from overcrowded pens, fed artificial feed. We have lost connection with natural cycles. We have lost freshness. We have lost nutritional density. We have gained convenience but paid for it with health. Medieval people had no choice, they ate what the season provided, and precisely because of that, they ate better. So what happened? How did we move from structurally superior food to nutritionally impoverished diets? The answer is industrialization. In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution turned food into commodity. Food began to be mass-produced, transported long distances, stored for extended periods. Priority shifted from nutrition to profit, durability, and standardization. Quality was sacrificed for quantity. White refined flour lasted longer without spoiling, so it replaced whole grains. Refined vegetable oils were cheaper than traditional animal fats. Added sugar improved the taste of cheap products, so it was put into everything. Chemical preservatives allowed long shelf lives. Artificial colorings standardized appearance. Synthetic additives masked low quality. The food industry optimized for durability and profitability, not human health, and we accepted this as progress. At the same time, industrial agriculture depleted soils through intensive monoculture. Synthetic fertilizers replaced organic composts. Pesticides killed soil microbiology. Plants grew quickly but absorbed fewer minerals. Animals were confined for efficient production but lost access to pasture and natural diet. The result is food that looks visually identical to the old but is nutritionally inferior. You eat the same quantity but receive fewer nutrients. Your body becomes chronically undernourished even while eating in abundance. Then came the supplement industry. When real food is depleted, artificial compensation becomes necessary. Vitamin D capsules because we no longer go out in the sun. Omega-3 supplements because our fish is farmed. Probiotics because our food is not fermented. Multivitamins because modern vegetables contain fewer nutrients. We are attempting to repair with chemistry what industrialization destroyed, but isolated supplements can never replace whole foods. Nutrition is not the sum of molecules, it is complex synergy. The consequences are plain to see. Obesity has reached epidemic levels across Europe and North America. Type 2 diabetes, once rare, is now commonplace. Cardiovascular diseases remain the leading cause of death. Cancers of the colon, prostate and breast continue to rise steadily. Autoimmune diseases are exploding. Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, multiple sclerosis, food allergies, once uncommon, are now epidemic. Children develop asthma, eczema, and attention deficits in alarming numbers. Something is profoundly wrong. Many of these diseases are rare or absent in populations that maintain traditional diets. Isolated tribes eating unprocessed foods show virtually no obesity, diabetes, or heart disease. Studies of migrants demonstrate that when people move from traditional diets to modern industrial Western diets, they develop chronic diseases within a single generation. It is not genetics, it is diet. Our genes have not changed, our food has, and our bodies are paying the price. Medieval people were not immune to disease. Bacterial infections killed without antibiotics. Wounds turned to gangrene. Childbirth was dangerous. Life expectancy was lower, primarily due to infant mortality and acute infections. Yet modern chronic diseases were rare. Obesity was virtually unknown. Type 2 diabetes unheard of. Heart disease uncommon. Colon cancer unknown. They died of things modern medicine has solved. We die of things modern food has created. We are not suggesting a complete return to the Middle Ages. We do not wish to abandon antibiotics, vaccines, or modern surgery. But we can relearn nutritional principles that worked. We can reconnect with real food. We can choose whole grains instead of refined flours. We can cook with traditional fats instead of industrial oils. We can buy eggs from free-range hens, not caged ones. We can seek local organic vegetables, not poisoned monocultures. We can rediscover fermentation, make our own sauerkraut, prepare bread with natural sourdough, buy artisan-aged cheeses, drink homemade kefir. These practices are not complicated. They are ancient, tested over centuries, accessible. They require no nutrition degree. They require time, attention, and a valuing of quality over convenience. And the benefits are immense. Healthy gut, strong immunity, stable energy, clear mind. We can respect seasonality. Eat strawberries in summer, pumpkins in autumn, roots in winter. Buy from local producers who farm traditionally. Support farmers who regenerate soil rather than deplete it. Value fresh, whole, unprocessed food. Cook at home rather than rely on packaged products. Teach children where food comes from, not merely which brand to buy. Reconnect with the land, with natural cycles, with ancestral wisdom. So we return to the initial question. Why were medieval people nutritionally superior without supplements or medicines? Because they ate real food. Quite simply, they had no choice. There were no industrial shortcuts. There was no marketing selling depleted products as healthy. There was only land, labor, and tradition. And it worked. It worked so well that it sustained entire civilizations for centuries. Not because they were ignorant, but because they were connected. We, with all our nutritional science, advanced laboratories and state-of-the-art supplements, are chronically unwell. They, without any of it, were structurally healthy. What does this tell us? That knowledge alone may not be enough, that we may need wisdom. And wisdom comes from observing what worked, not from inventing shortcuts. It comes from respecting nature, not attempting to control it. It comes from simplicity, not complexity. We do not need more supplements. We need better food. We do not need more nutritionists. We need more regenerative farmers. We do not need more research on isolated molecules. We need to reconnect with whole foods that sustained humanity for millennia. The answer does not lie in the future. It lies in the past, not the romanticized past, but the practical, functional, time-tested past. Perhaps progress is not forgetting everything that came before. Perhaps it is relearning what we once knew. Perhaps it is looking backwards, not with nostalgia, but with humility, recognizing that not everything modern is better, that convenience carries a cost, that industrialization brought gains, but also deep losses, and that recovering those losses is not regression. It is restoration, it is healing, it is a return to what always worked. Because in the end, health does not come from pills, it comes from plates. And what we put on those plates determines everything: our energy, our mood, our longevity, our quality of life. Medieval people understood this intuitively. We have forgotten, but we can relearn. One plate at a time, one choice at a time, one meal at a time. The question is, are we willing, or will we continue seeking chemical shortcuts for problems created by industrial shortcuts? The choice is ours. It always has been.